Hey guys, welcome back to my annual games I beat, this time the 2017 edition, in which I basically go over the list of games that I beat during the calendar year. And of course, this is different from my top games of 2017, which is a video that will be coming up. As some of you guys know, those of you that watch my channel for a few years already, I tend to do my top games of of each year a little bit later than most people do. So stay tuned. I'm shooting for maybe during February because I'm still playing a couple of 2017 releases. But as far as this video, I will go over every single game that I beat during 2017. They are not necessarily 2017 releases. They can be games from any year, but I did play a lot of 2017 games because 2017 was just a fantastic year with a lot of great games. Arguably one of the best years in gaming in history as far as the quality of games that got released. But without further ado, let's just go over the list. A pretty good year. I was able to complete 35 games. An increase of one game over last year, which was 34 games. So pretty happy with the amount of games that I finished. And let's start with number one, which was Ratchet Clank for the PlayStation 4, a 2016 release. I have an impressions video for this if you guys want to check it out. But basically, it was a very fun, 3D platformer slash shooter, PS4 exclusive game that really step it up in terms of graphics, and it was just a fun game like any other Ratchet Clank game where you have different weapons and you go crazy with the weapons you have. So a very fun game, highly recommended. It's a PlayStation 4 exclusive and you can get this game for very cheap. So Ratchet Clank for the PS4 was the first game I beat in 2017. Moving on to the second game is Uncharted 4, A Thief's End, one of my favorite games of 2016. It was very hard for me not to place this game at the top of my list, but this is a typical Naughty Dog, high-budget title with fantastic graphics, a gripping Hollywood-esque type of storyline and set pieces, and just a fantastic game. And it truly became probably my favorite game in the Uncharted series, just because of the way the story was told, the way the gameplay got improved over previous games, and of course, the updated graphics. This was built from the ground up for the PlayStation 4, so a fantastic game. Uncharted 4, definitely one of the strongest exclusive titles on the PlayStation 4. At number 3, we have YZ Memories of Celseta for the PlayStation Vita, a game that I started this a long time ago and I played through most of the game and then I stopped. And it's one of those games where it's pretty hard to pick back up, because this is even though it's an YZ game, it's among one of the longest as far as gameplay time. A lot of the old school YZ games are somewhat of short RPGs, but this is on the longer side. But I was very happy to have finished YZ Memories of Celseta. It was a very fun game, such a fantastic gameplay, a pick up and play type of action. Very easy to switch between characters, very easy to learn the moves, the combos, and how the overall gameplay mechanics work. So I was very happy with YZ Memories of Celseta. Definitely one of the standout RPGs in the PlayStation Vita library of games. At number 4, another RPG. This is more of an action RPG, and it's Final Fantasy Explorers for the Nintendo 3DS. This is a quest-based type of action RPG, similar to the Monster Hunter games, where you have quests and you have to defeat bosses. And I was pleasantly surprised by this game, to the point that it made my top of 2016 games list. It was very addicting for the first 10 to 15 hours. The game does get repetitive towards the end in terms of facing the same bosses and enemies, and the quests are very similar. But overall, I had a really good time with Final Fantasy Explorers, and even though I'm not a huge Final Fantasy junkie, I was able to appreciate the game for what it was. The different types of jobs that you can pick, and it was a very fun game overall. That I'm pretty happy to have played it during 2017. At number 5, we have a very short game. I did not make an impressions video or anything like that, so This is Call of Duty Ghosts, declassified for the PlayStation Vita, one of the very few first-person shooters on the system. To be honest, it's far from being the best first-person shooter. This was developed by the same team that did the Resistance game on the PlayStation Vita, which was also somewhat of a dud, a below-average first-person shooter, if you will. But I decided to play this game. I had it on my shelf, and it's one of those easy games that I believe it only takes 3 to 4 hours to complete the main campaign. So for what it's worth, it was fun playing the game, and just fun overall using the Vita for one of the, in my opinion, intended purposes. Having 2 analog sticks on the handheld was always a used opportunity, in my opinion. I wish there were more first-person shooting games on the system. But nevertheless, Call of Duty Ghosts, declassified, not the best game, but happy to put a check mark on that game because it was sitting on my shelf for a very long time. At number 6, we have a Nintendo. It's actually a Neo Geo AES game. King of Fighters 98. Of course, this is a classic fighting game that I really like because of the size of the roster. I played this through the Switch, not Virtual Console because they don't have that service yet, but SNK they have been releasing some Neo Geo games, and King of Fighters 98 is one of them. So I beat the main campaign mode or whatever. So that's why I consider this game to be completed, and you can never go wrong with these games. As always, the final boss fight was I was pulling my hair, typical Neo Geo difficulty as far as the final boss fights. But overall, King of Fighters 98 is one of my favorites in the series. Next up, we have at number 7 a game that really made an impact to me and the industry overall, and that game is the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild for the Nintendo Switch. No introduction needed here. It's one of the highest rated games, not only of 2017, but of all time. It won Game of the Year as far as the official video game awards. And to me, it really deserved a lot of those, a lot of that praise, a lot of those perfect review scores, because this game took the open world theme that a lot of developers have been using for many years, and Nintendo just took it and added certain gameplay elements that really elevated the game. And that, coupled with the the Legend of Zelda lore, the characters, the beautiful cartoony / cel-shaded graphics, and the addicting gameplay, trying different weapons and whatnot, it was definitely one of the best games of 2017. And I believe it's the game that I put the most time in 2017, over 100 hours. I was just completely taken away by how the game works, and just how big the universe that you explore is. So Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, definitely one of the standout titles, and the one game that really made me get a Nintendo Switch on day one. And number 8, we have another Nintendo Switch game, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, another game that I really enjoyed back on the Wii U days. And this is the Nintendo Switch release, with all the DLC characters and whatnot. Nothing more to say except that it's my favorite Mario Kart game of all time, and having it on the Switch is a huge bonus because you have that handheld, availability of the game at all times. So had a lot of fun playing this game, both solo. I was able to get all the 3 golden stars for each circuit in this game, and also playing online with friends. It was a very, very good time. At number 9, we have another standout fighting game, one of my favorite fighting games of all time, and that game is Garou Mark of the Wolves, which is basically one of the latest Fatal Fury games. This is a re-release for the PlayStation 4. I believe the original game came out in the arcades, and there are ports for the Sega Dreamcast, for example, that are pretty pricey to get. And I'm really glad, SNK decided to release this game in a digital format, just because it's one of the best fighting games out there in terms of raw gameplay. The combat system is very fluent, very addicting, very easy to get into. And it's just one of the my personal favorite fighting games of all time. So pretty happy for this new re-release of Mark of the Wolves. At number 10, a game that kind of took me by surprise. It's an indie game, Stories, The Path of Destinies. This was one of those PlayStation Plus freebie games that I decided to fire the game up, and I ended up liking it enough to complete the game, and not only doing that but also getting the Platinum Trophy. It was a very interesting game in terms of it has like 40 plus something endings, so the game does take a long time, and especially if you want to get the Platinum Trophy, you have to unlock every ending and beat the game 40 plus times or whatever it was, and it's a little bit grindy towards the end, but I had a lot of fun with the characters and all the different scenarios and endings that you're able to achieve. So it was a pleasant surprise for me, and I had a pretty good time with Stories, The Path of Destinies. At number 11, a shmup that came highly recommended by my friend here on YouTube, Leo, the Funny Nerd, and it's Caladrius Blaze on the PlayStation 4. Finally, the game saw a physical release through Play Asia. I was able to import this game, and a very fun shmup or shooter, and with very interesting imagery. With the the different girls that you're able to pick, and they lose clothing every time you fight a boss and things like that. So the game does have those cringy moments, but overall it's a very solid game with interesting gameplay, depth, and I was happy to play that game. And it's one of those games that it's really easy to get into and just fire it up every now and then and have a good old time with playing a shmup. At number 12, a game that really took me by surprise, and it shot up in my personal list of favorite RPGs of all time. And I'm talking about Ys Origin. This is for the PlayStation 4. This is a game that I owned on Steam, but I was never able to really play the game. But finally, now that they have a PlayStation 4 version, I was able to get the game, and it made an impact on me as far as just the addicting gameplay. This is classic Ys in the sense that the gameplay is very simple. It's completely action based, and it's a top view type of RPG. It has a classic old school feeling to it. Pretty challenging even on the normal difficulty. And I was very happy to the point that I beat the game twice, and I'm trying to I purposely saved the third playthrough with the third character that you unlock to play it on 2018. So that way I can enjoy the game a little bit more. But overall, Ys Origin make an impact on me, and it's one of my favorite RPGs of all time, bar none. Just because the game is so concise, it has a very good story, very good characters, very good combat system. And the game is not very long. It's like the perfect package for me, and I really appreciated that. At number 13, we have an Xbox One game, Ryse Son of Rome. It's one of the Xbox One exclusive games. It was a launch day. The game got a lot of hate for what it was, but me personally, I really enjoyed the game. I thought the game had an interesting concept. It's kind of like a third-person view beat 'em up of sorts. Very impressive graphics for being a launch game, and I had a good time with it. It was a short game, but I got it for cheap, and I had a pretty good time playing the game. Interesting story, very good graphics, and interesting gameplay, so can't complain. I had a really good time with Ryse Son of Rome. At number 14, perhaps my second or third most played of 2017, and that game is FIFA 17 for the Xbox One. Now, again, how can you beat a sports game? The way I consider beating a sports game is at least completing one full season on career mode, which takes a long time. And the reason why I said this is one of my most played games of 2017 is because I actually completed, I believe, 4 full seasons. I played 2 seasons with a smaller team, and then me being successful with that team got me a contract with a bigger team, and that's kind of like the fun and addicting part for me personally of the FIFA games. And FIFA 17 was a fantastic game, and I was able to enjoy this through the EA Access service, so very happy to have played this game in a lengthy manner. At number 15, we have none other than ARMS for the Nintendo Switch, a game that I wasn't sure if I was going to pick it on day one, just because of the short nature of the game, very little replay value, but I was pleasantly surprised, and I'm really glad I picked this game on day one. Yes, the game lacks, I guess, variety in terms of the gameplay, but it's addicting, and it's fun to go back to it and play with different characters and try different set of arms in each character. So I had a lot of fun with ARMS. I beat the game with most characters. I do have to go back and beat with the game with this, the characters that I wasn't able to beat the game with. And I know Nintendo released new characters, so it'll be interesting to go back and just play the game again. Very challenging, but the cool thing about this game is they give you a wide range of difficulties that you can pick from. I mostly played the game on the normal setting, but very challenging game and also very fun to play online with games. So ARMS was definitely a pleasant surprise, and looking forward to Nintendo developing this new IP of theirs. At number 16, we have Gears of War for the 4 for the Xbox One, a game that I completed online co-op with Leo the Funny Nerd. It was a very fun game. Short but sweet experience, great graphics, pretty decent story, and it was just overall a fun game to play with an online buddy here from YouTube. I'm always down for playing co-op games, and this was a very fun one to experience with Leo. So at number 17, we have one of my favorite games of 2016, and that game is Doom for the PlayStation 4. I have an impressions video for this. If you guys want to go listen to me gush about this game, it's just one of the best first-person shooters ever made. The gunplay, the way the gameplay works, the performance of the graphics combined with the fluent flow of the gameplay and the different weapons. I mean, this game, fantastic soundtrack. I mean, I can just sit here and talk for hours. Doom 2016 is definitely one of the best first-person shooter games of all time, period. At number 18, we have YZ1 Chronicle. And even though here you see on the screenshot the YZ1 and 2 Chronicle for the PSP, I was only able to complete the first one, YZ1. So this marks the third Ys games that I beat on during 2017. So it was a very prolific year for Ys games. Now YZ1, it's a little bit of an old school game. I personally don't really like the bump and run mechanic. I think it's a little bit too old school and just a little bit too retro for my taste. But I do have to admit that I had a lot of fun playing YZ1, especially after beating Ys Origin, because YZ1 is basically the next game in terms of the chronological order. So a lot of interesting tidbits of the story that were shared between the two games. So I'm definitely looking forward into playing Ys 2 at one point, probably this year. They're not very long games. They only take a couple hours to beat. So definitely looking forward into playing Ys 2 sooner rather than later. At number 19, we have Jacuzzi Zero for the PlayStation 4. Fantastic game. Love this one. It's one of my favorite Jacuzzi games of all time. As you guys know, I love the series. I have played most of the games in the series already, and I can safely say that Jacuzzi Zero does most of the things in a right manner, and it's just fun. It's very fun getting to know the early story of Kiryu and Goro. It was just fun exploring Japan in the settings of the late 80s, and the game has a pretty good vibe and just a variety in terms of gameplay and the combat system that kept me entertained. So Jacuzzi Zero, definitely one of the best games of 2017 and one of my favorite games in the Jacuzzi series. Highly recommended if you guys are looking into getting into the series, since this is the first game chronologically speaking. At number 20, another pleasant surprise, Uncharted: The Lost Legacy for the PlayStation 4. A short but sweet experience, typical Naughty Dog. You have fantastic set pieces with Hollywood-esque elements, great graphics. I really enjoyed that the open world nature of one of the chapters in the game. I think it was chapter 4, where you basically have a free roam ability and to go treasure hunting or to complete the main quests. I had a lot of fun with Uncharted, and I hope Naughty Dog explores a little bit more doing these spin-offs or side games now that, you know, the Drake story is supposedly over. So very happy that they're giving chances to other characters in the series, in this particular game, Chloe. So Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, definitely one of the most fun games of 2017 in my opinion. Number 21, another game that, and you guys are gonna see a pattern here, Jacuzzi Kiwami for the PlayStation 4. I typically don't play back-to-back games in the same series just because I don't want to get burnt out. But as soon as I finished Jacuzzi Zero, I started Jacuzzi Kiwami, and I just couldn't stop playing. This is basically a remake of the Jacuzzi 1 for the PlayStation 2, and as you guys can tell, I'm lagging behind on my impressions video. I beat this game many months ago, but I haven't done my impressions video yet. So this is something that I definitely want to do, because I do want to share my impressions on Jacuzzi Kiwami, which is a fantastic game. Probably not the strongest, even though it's a full-on remake. I still think that the game shows some of the, I guess, weaknesses for being, you know, that first game in the series, in the Jacuzzi universe. So not the best Jacuzzi game, but definitely worth a look if you guys are into the Jacuzzi games. At number 22, we have Mario Sports Superstars. Unfortunately, this is not a very good game. It takes several sports, Mario Sports games, and it's oversimplified way too much. However, if you guys have, you know, young kids or you know, younger brothers or whatever, I think it's a good alternative. It's a fun game to keep, you know, young people entertained. But as far as, you know, if you're looking into a hardcore Mario Sports experience, I think you're better off buying the individual games. You know, the Mario Tennis games, the Mario Golf games, and those are just much more complex and more fun to play, in my opinion. And number 23, we have one of my favorite games of all time, which is Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo. This was played thanks through the acquisition of the SNES Classic. And yeah, very happy to have one more time played and completed this game. This is a game that I beat so many times over the course of, you know, the years, decades. And yeah, what can I say about Super Mario World? It's definitely one of the most highly acclaimed platformers of all time. I love platformers, so it was a joy to experience Super Mario World again for the umpteenth time. And speaking of umpteenth time, you know, playing a game, at number 24, I have Super Mario Kart for the Super Nintendo. Again, through this Super Nintendo Classic, I was able to experience this game again. I completed the game through the 100cc mode, beat all the cups or circuits in the game. And once again, this is one of my favorite Super Mario Kart games of all time. The game hasn't aged too well in terms of the gameplay, but overall the game has still a lot of charm, and I had a really good time replaying Super Mario Kart for the Super Nintendo once again. At number 25, another game that took me a very long time to beat, and this was because I really enjoyed the game to the point I wanted to get the Platinum Trophy. So at number 25, we have Horizon Zero Dawn for the PlayStation 4. Another heavy hitter, another exclusive game for the system that I cannot, you know, recommend this enough for people that own a PlayStation 4. This is a new, basically, IP series from Guerrilla Studios of the Killzone games, but they have something special cooking here. And you know, I really enjoyed the setting. I really enjoyed the character of Aloy. And you know, the overall combat in this game was very addicting. Trying out the different weapons, playing, you know, setting up the traps for the enemies was very, very fun. Doing the side quests, I think the game was just overall very fun and very entertaining. Again, to the point that I invested, I want to say, I forgot, but maybe 50 to 60 hours to get the Platinum Trophy. It was a very fun experience, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing more of Horizon. I haven't tried the DLC yet, but this is definitely something that I would like to try at one point or another. At 26, we have Splatoon 2 for the Nintendo Switch. This is me completing the single-player campaign, which is not very long, but very fun. Similarly to the first Splatoon game, I had a lot of fun playing the single-player campaign. It was entertaining. It's kind of like a 3D platformer / shooter. In my opinion, I think the first campaign, I think I had a better time playing it. But Splatoon 2 for the Switch was a very solid game. As far as the multiplayer though, I do have a few gripes that I will be sharing on a hopefully future impressions video. This is another game that I beat, many months ago, and for some reason I haven't just recorded my impressions on it yet. So do look forward to that in the near future. And continuing with the Nintendo Switch, we have at number 27 Super Bomberman R, one of the launch games for the Nintendo Switch. I was planning on doing an impressions video on this. It's a short game. I don't want to say it's sweet. It definitely has a lot of flaws. Not a whole lot of replay value in my opinion. But the game does have online multiplayer, which adds a little bit to the replay value. But other than that, the single player campaign wasn't anything special or spectacular. So yeah, if you guys are interested in this game, just be wary that it's a very short game and not very fun in my opinion. At number 28, another Nintendo Switch game, Cave Story Plus, a game that I do have an impressions video, and a game that I was very much happy to finally complete. Cave Story is a game that has been available for a very long time in a multitude of systems, but it took me this long to actually purchase the game and play it on the Nintendo Switch, and I'm really happy I did because it was a very fun game. And definitely, if you guys enjoy the Metroidvania type of games, this is one worth checking out. Very impressive, as it was done only by one person. So this is one of those staple indie games that I think it should be played by most people. At number 29, another Nintendo Switch game. Played a lot of Nintendo Switch, as you can tell, this year. We have another timeless masterpiece here, and I'm talking about Super Mario Odyssey, a game that really has a strong argument for being one of the best Mario games of all time, one of the best games of 2017, and just one of the best high-quality games ever made, in my opinion. From the colorful graphics to the extremely polished gameplay, mechanics and quality, this game just oozes quality and a level of refinement that only Nintendo and, in my opinion, Blizzard can bring to a video game. And Super Mario Odyssey is just a fantastic game. 3D platforming, heaven basically. If you guys enjoy platforming games, Super Mario Odyssey is the one game to get for the Nintendo Switch. At number 30, we have an encounter with an old friend of mine, so to speak. And I'm talking about Battlefield 3. This is for the Xbox 360, which I don't own a 360, but I was able to play this via the backwards compatibility through the Xbox One. And this was a quote-unquote free game from EA Access. And I think I did wrong in firing this game up because I want to say close to maybe 60 to 70 hours, which will make this my probably second or third most played game of 2017. And for those of you that don't know, Battlefield 3 is my most played game of all time, and this is through the PlayStation 3. And I do have to admit that I had a ton of fun playing this game once again for the 360. It was fun because I started from scratch, obviously, but everything came back to me so quickly. The controls, the maps, how to control tanks, and the different classes and specs. I was just owning people left and right. I was having so much fun being a low-level player, finishing as the MVP on every round. It was just fun wreaking havoc as a low-level soldier. And of course, now I'm already pretty high level up, and I'm still playing this game occasionally because it's just so much fun. In my opinion, I know not a whole lot of people are fans of Battlefield 3. A lot of people prefer the Bad Company games, but me personally, I think this is one of the best and most addicting first-person shooting online games of all time, and hence why I was happy to re-encounter this game in 2017. At number 31, somewhat of a disappointment, if you want to call it that. It's Undertale for the PlayStation 4. And I'm saying this disappointment because this is a game that got a ton of praise from a lot of people that I respect. A lot of reviewers call this a game defining experience. It's something more than a video game. So I was excited and curious to see what the hell they were talking about. And I can firmly say that it did not live to my expectations or to the hype, if you will. So Undertale for the PlayStation 4, a little bit of a disappointment, especially because I paid a little bit more than usual in order to get the physical release of the game. But nevertheless, you have to play these games if you want to experience them. And you at the end, you're the judge of the sole judge of the game. And in my opinion, it did not deliver to the hype. So Undertale for the PlayStation 4 at number 31. At number 32, we have another downloadable PlayStation 4 game that was available for dirt cheap in one of the latest holiday sales for the PSN store. And that game is Virginia, which is a first-person adventure / investigation game. It's a very unique game that it has a lot of concentration on the story, but the game doesn't have any dialogue or written script, if you will. So a very interesting game in how it's presented, a very interesting game in terms of the art direction. It has a very kind of like, I don't know, it's hard to explain. It's about investigation. You're an FBI agent that is trying to solve a case, and a lot of things happen and that develop through the game. The story is a little bit dense to the point that I really want to play this a second time and kind of read what other people have come up with, in terms of the story. But overall, very happy to have played Virginia for the PlayStation 4. It was a very interesting type of indie game. At number 33, another pleasant surprise, Titanfall for the Xbox One. It's one of those early Xbox One games that a lot of people also criticized. Truth to be told, I think it's a very solid first-person shooter game. In my opinion, one of the best made first-person shooter games in terms of the things that you can do, the way you unlock, experience and perks and whatnot. I did record an impressions video that I haven't uploaded yet, so expect to see that pretty soon in the channel. If you want to hear my extended thoughts, make sure you check that out, coming up pretty soon. At number 34, another game that I got through a PSN holiday sale for dirt cheap, Just Punk Director's Cut. Another highly recommended game, very comical, very like humor-esque type of first-person investigation game. This game was recommended by a friend of mine, and even though the game is extremely short and easy, I did have a lot of fun with the humor in the game, and for what I paid, I think it was worth experiencing this game. And finally, at number 35, a game that I was looking forward with a lot of anticipation is Life is Strange Before the Storm. For the PlayStation 4, I was able to get the Deluxe Pass for this, and just recently they released the final season, or the final chapter, which is chapter 3. I do have an impressions video on this, so if you want to hear my thoughts on this, make sure you check that out. This is obviously basically the prequel to the Life is Strange Season 1, which is a game that I really enjoyed back when it was released. So Life is Strange Before the Storm is not as good as Season 1, but I'm happy that I was able to play the game and enjoyed it as well. So that's it, guys. 35 games. Make sure you stay tuned for my top games of 2017, which it'll take a while for me to come up with that video, but in the meantime, thank you for watching and supporting the channel. And as always, I'll catch up with you guys later. Take it easy.